Hey guys, Anthony here from 4x4 Diesel or the Prado Hospital. Just been asked to give a little bit more information on my catch can or not to catch can. There's a lot of controversy around all the pages all over the internet about whether to catch can or not to catch can. As you all know, my position is you don't need a catch can. In my opinion, it's a waste of money. It's very untidy. If they're not mounted correctly, they can actually damage your guards with a vibration from corrugations and diesel vibration. So there can be a negative, and there's other reasons as well. We'll get into that. Now, sit back tight. This one I'm going to dribble on a bit, so only watch this video if you've got time to watch it. It could be very informative, and you could be disappointed if you've got a catch can. But it's a personal choice. Now, this is my opinion, this is my experiences, so you can respect that, and I'll respect your experiences. So, personal choice. I don't believe in catch cans, that's what I think about it. Other people have got different views. So I've been asked to explain my view, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, I just want to make it clear, I'm not here to sell you things, right? If I was going to sell you things, I'd have a stock of catch cans, fuel filters, auto coolers. There's heaps of things that I could sell you. I'm not a parts business. I'm not here to sell you stuff. I'm generally on Facebook giving out lots of free information because I see a problem with these vehicles. The Prados and Hiluxes are awesome. The 1KD engine is awesome, but there are some problems with it, and there's not many places that know how to work on them and fix them correctly. So what I do is I provide the information and the parts to solve those problems, things you do need. Example, new fresh injectors. You don't need old ones. You don't need rebuilt ones. You might be told they're new and they're not new. You don't want any other brands of aftermarket. We're not going to name brands. There's Chinese ones, all sorts of things. So things like injector kits, wheel bearings, because it's easier if it's already pressed together. You know, we supply those already assembled, you know, timing belt kits and that. So you don't have to muck around, get it at the right price, delivered to your door. Anyway, not here to sell you stuff you don't need. If I was just here to sell parts and make money, then I'd have all sorts of parts for sale. I wouldn't be on the tools at all. I'd be saying no, and I'd just sell parts. You know, I'd sell you everything, mate. I'd sell you a tub of grease, a bowl of oil. I'd sell you filter kits, all sorts of gear. And I'm only selling the things that are hard for you to get the right parts. And you can get them all at one place instead of going there for injectors, there for pipes, there for other parts and whatever. And then wherever you buy those parts, you've got no service. It's a one-stop shop. You buy the parts, old school service. You talk to me on the phone. We're going to give you the right parts, first time, express post, swift service. Anybody that's dealt with me can confirm that that's the case, right? So, not here to sell you things, right? Like, you know, like I said, catch cans, fuel filters, on-car carbon cleans. What a joke, right? You cannot push that sooty mess from your intake through a high compression diesel engine. As I said in another video, I've been in the automotive trade since around about 92, and I went through trade school, you know, automotive TAFE, where it was 1 week at school, 3 weeks at work, 1 week at school, 3 weeks at work. So we actually learnt stuff on petrols and diesels, everything bumper to bumper. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is there's two different problems with the intakes caking up. One of them is the EGR, exhaust gas recirculation. Not so bad on a petrol engine. With a diesel, you've got soot, right? You've got carbon. It's bad stuff. You don't want to be putting diesel exhaust back through the engine, okay? But that's what they're doing because they're doing it to meet emissions laws. That's another video. Anyway, there's also PCV. Now, let's talk about PCV for a minute. Now, look, you can hit Google. Some people go, oh, Google. No, Google's good. There's plenty of websites and places out there that will explain to you the simple operation of EGR and PCV. You need to understand the two. Separately, they're probably not really an issue much in the engine because these 1KDs are tough. We're talking about 1KDs, nothing else. This is all I work on, so that's what we're talking about. Okay, so EGR, exhaust gas recirculation, right? So exhaust is coming back through your engine. That's where the soot comes from. That's the real problem. It can be dry and abrasive, or it can stick to the oil and stuck and make a mess. Now, PCV, positive crankcase ventilation, what that was designed for is, early days in engines, they found there was moisture condensation. Obviously, the engine combusts, air comes in the intake. There's moisture in air, you know. We'll call it humidity, right, if you like. You know there's moisture in the air. Sometimes it can be quite heavy, so in some areas it's worse than others. So what they were finding from the combustion, the heat in the engine, the moisture was in there, and it had raised obviously to the top of the inside the engine, inside the valve cover, which is what happens. You can understand that, like in a tent. Anybody go camping? Yes. Okay, so similar thing. Now, what happens when you try and mix water and oil? Does that mix? No, but if you churn it around a lot, like crankshafts do, it'll turn into a nice greasy, gluggy mess. So what they worked out they had to do, they said, we've got to get this moisture out of there. And what happens, we know the moisture goes to the top, so they put a hole in the top of the valve cover, rocker cover, whatever you want to call it. Petrol or diesel engine, much the same, doesn't matter, you know, a few variables there, but it's about the same for PCV. So they put a hole there. What they used to do was just hang the hose down low, and that used to just, you know, have a low pressure, and it'd just slowly evacuate. But of course, a little bit of oil mist, because in the heat of an engine running and crankshaft sloshing around, you do get oil mist from that, right? So the oil mist, so that's what's going to come out that line as well. So it made mess all over the road, and the guy on the motorbike slid out and killed himself when he hit a truck bull bar. Not very nice. So what they said, we've got to clean this mess up, and they plumbed it back to the intake, because they went, well, a little bit of oil isn't going to hurt the intake, and that's absolutely correct. A little bit of oil isn't going to hurt the intake. The positives are, it's a bit of corrosion prevention, and it could possibly add a little bit of upper cylinder lubrication, you know, so that's a positive. Same as the old engines on gas, whatever, you know, they had the valve saver things where it fed the oil onto the valves. It's not a bad thing, a bit of upper end lubrication. Now, so hopefully you understand with PCV. Now, what my experience with these particular engines also, to add to that, is we've compression test. That's why the compression test and the tools are sitting there. For years now, we've only been working on 1KDs, and every injector job, every engine we've opened up, we've done a compression test on. So hundreds of these compression tests, and the pattern we've seen is the ones without catch cans, generally all these engines have within valve clearance specs, within valve clearances within spec, and good compressions. But there's a pattern there. Most of my clients don't have catch cans because they listen. The pattern I've seen is the few that do have catch cans always seem to have slightly lower compressions or slightly tighter valve clearances. It's not a big problem. So if you want to have a catch can, have a catch can, but that's the pattern we've seen. Could be a coincidence, but that's not the reason I don't like it. The main reason is you just don't need it. I like the oil in the intake. There's not a lot in there. If there was a lot in there, the engine would be burning at 7 litres of oil in a 10,000k interval. You know, at the end of 10,000 k's, you check the oil level, it's about the same. You're only going to have used maybe 100 mil, give or take, whatever the case may be. It's going to vary from engine to engine, depending what oil's used, how it's driven, and how old it is, how many kilometres. So we're not worried about the oil in the intake. The soot is the real problem. The soot also in the combustion, some of it, what contaminates your engine oil is fuel and whatever's in the combustion blowing past the rings. A small portion of it does blow past the rings, and that's what contaminates your engine oil. And part of that, if you've got exhaust gas recirculation, is soot. So the soot's in the oil, there it is, and everything the oil goes over when it's got soot in it, it can leave a residue of that carbon. And you've seen in other videos where I've shown the carbon, you know, you look up close to those injector clamps, you can see the carbon there. So basically, if you've got oil that's clean and you haven't got the soot, you haven't got a problem. So that pretty much it, not in a nutshell. That's in 8.5 minutes so far. I can keep going. So, you know, the plate with a 7mm hole works really well. You need to check in your state what the legalities are. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not telling you what to do. I can just tell you heaps of people do it. Hundreds, thousands of people have done it. I've seen vehicles, the results of it. The EJAR valve stays alloy in colour. Yes, it works. In my opinion, that's all you need. The fact is you probably don't need anything. For one example, and we've seen a few vehicles over 400,000 now, no catch can, no fuel filter, nothing on the original injectors, and the readings weren't bad. Now that is a miracle. I'm just going to show you those. There's the original pipes and all the seals and gaskets from yesterday, and there's the injectors, no blow-by, so it is real. There it is. And so there you go. Look, the information I give you, it's just to help you guys. Go ahead, do whatever you want. If you've got a catch can, you've got one. Doesn't bother me. I just had this brainwave actually. Don't know whether it'd work. Looking at everybody's photos of catch cans over the years and what comes out of them, that oil, it always looks clean. I don't see any milkiness, which would say there's no water. So if there's no moisture in the engine, if there's no moisture coming out this hole, you could go to Bunnings and buy one of those packets of you know, the bottom of the stools, how they've got the rubber feet on them. I think they're $2.50 for a pack of 4. You could put one over this end of the valve cover there and one on the other end, and guess what? No catch can needed, and you have no oil in your intake. That's not what I'm going to do, because I'm not sure that's going to work. I'm not recommending you do that. But if you have a look at the facts, and that is, I don't see water in the intake. I don't see water in that oil that's coming out the catch cans that people have put up in photos over the years. So if there's no moisture, we're not worried about it, because that's why PCV is there, for moisture, because oil doesn't mix with water. You know, it makes grease and gluggy mess. If you look up some very old vehicles, you'll find that under the old Holden engines, the 6-cylinder engines, stuff like that, because the original PC, the crankcase ventilation it was back then didn't really work. This positive crankcase ventilation, that is, it's like a vacuum on the manifold sucking it through, like an exhaust fan evacuating your engine. So there you go, guys. That's my bit of info. If that's not enough for you, ask your questions and I'll put another video together and make a new post. If you've got any questions, feel free to give me a call and ask your questions. 0490 261 013. See ya.